From sunny Austin, Texas, it's the Counselor Dynamite View, coming at you.
Hello and welcome to the Counselor Dynamite View, based out of Austin, Texas. My name is Star Burgess, and joining me are my co-hosts, Crystal Kell and Jenna Fleming. We're so happy that you're joining us for our very first show. We're going to begin by introducing ourselves and sharing some of our background.
I guess I will go first. My name is Jenna Fleming. I'm a school counselor here in the Austin area. I'm first and foremost a mother and a wife. I've got two beautiful children, Ella and Liam. I love serving the families and community that I work with. And I'm also an LPCI, which means I'm working towards licensure to practice counseling privately.
Hi, I'm Crystal Kell, and I'm a school counselor as well here in Round Rock, Texas. And I love working with my elementary friends. It's a good time. I'm a mom and a wife as well, and I'm excited to be sharing this opportunity with you guys.
And again, I am Star Burgess. I am a former teacher and school counselor. Currently, I'm a licensed professional counselor working in my private practice, Life Menders Counseling. In my practice, I work with teens, individuals, couples, and families. In addition to my counseling duties, I am the president of the Net Connection, which is a professional organization for mental health professionals. I am an author of the Children's Dynamite book series, and I reside in the Austin area with my handsome husband, Clyde, and our beautiful daughter, Lillian. Now, you must be wondering, what is the Counselor Dynamite View? Well, I'm so glad you asked. The Counselor Dynamite View is an online talk show where myself, Crystal, and Jenna will be discussing issues and challenges that our children face every day in schools. You may subscribe to all the shows for free on www.counselordynamite.com. Now that we have talked about the purpose of the show, we're going to move on to our topic for the month, which is Back to School Madness. Now, I'm not sure if you ladies have ever had this happen to you, but transitioning from the freedom of summer to kind of the structure of the school year is very difficult in the Burgess household. What's been your experience?
Amen to that, because I know right now we are going to bed late, we're getting up late, and we're just we have that loosey-goosey freedom in our schedule right now. My daughter Ella is in elementary school, and so getting back on track with getting up early can just be tough. So I know getting to bed early and getting on just that routine of getting sleep can really help, but it's not always fun.
I totally agree. Well, and not just like with kids, but for me, it's hard. In the summertime, getting used to having one schedule and then turning around and having to set routines and things like that for the school year can be a daunting task.
Well, I know with us, Lillian, I think it's a big change for all of us. I know it's a big change for Clyde and I, because we normally alternate in taking her to school and picking her up. And so we have to get back to getting in the bed on time. And then Lil, she's been really enjoying being able to stay up late and then getting up late in the morning. And then also just the freedom, deciding what she wants to do when she wants to do it. And so going back to the school year where then she has homework to do. And then we have her in activities at school. And then coming home, and it's just hard for everybody because we're so tired. It seems like we get tired too. It's like that first day, you're really pumped up, you're excited to get there, and then you get your first homework assignment, or the children do, and then it's like, it's starting.
And I think that getting run down, adjusting to the new sleep schedule or whatever, doesn't that just make everything in life a little bit harder? I've seen that with my own self, my family, and then the kids that I've worked with in the school setting too. I think when you're tired, when you're adjusting your body physically, also emotionally and mentally, everything just seems to be that much more magnified. Anxiety, stress, grumpiness,
Yes.
all of that kind of stuff too.
And then I think about also, along with that is sitting down and the structure of also sitting down and eating with family and eating healthy foods, because I think that's part of that tiredness that kids may experience. I don't know, in the summertime I'm a little bit more laxed or relaxed about what our diet is, the foods that we eat. In the school year I think I'm a little bit more conscious of it's important to start off with having breakfast, make sure you have a nutritious lunch, when you come home have a nutritious snack, and then us all sitting down at the dinner table. I think when we're in the summertime, you know, if we wake up late, we may miss breakfast and we may start off having lunch. And then if Lillian wants some candy or pie or whatever, I'm just like, sure, have another one. You can have another one. It's the summer. Enjoy it.
It's kind of funny how the school schedule sets, you know, it like controls so much. When you have kids that are school age or we work with the school system, how once that starts, it's like everything changes, you know, where you're following the schedule and the set. So your structure and your boundaries and your just routines and all of that has to be
It's a huge
put
change.
into place.
But you don't want it like a shock to the system, like throw them in a pool of cold water. So I know for me, I'll try and kind of wean into the bedtime routine and then start implementing a little bit more structure into our home before the structure on the external things like school, work, whatever the school routine is going to be, will start playing into full effect. So it's a little bit of a transition for kids and adults, because I think that can really help ease anxiety. And I think sometimes structure in general helps with anxiety. It gives that sense of, okay, mom's in control, mom knows what's going on, so I feel a little bit safer.
Yeah.
Well, and if you have that routine, then you know what's going to happen and you know what's going on
I feel
too.
a little safer too.
Yeah. So, and for, you know, your young friends, that's important. What's coming next? What's going to happen next? Just having that down. Well, even your older friends, they crave that too.
And Lillian, she's in middle school, and so she doesn't quite need the same things like she did when she was in elementary school. And I find that the thing that she needs the most is for us just to keep tabs on, okay, we're getting to bed on this time, and what are we wearing the next day, and to help her be organized. Even going through her accordion folder where she keeps her assignments, me going through that also. So I always kind of help her along the school year with, well, in the summertime, helping her with organization, particularly probably that last July into August, where we're starting to talk about, okay, this is what bedtime is going to be. So she knows, she's ready for it. Okay, and we start talking about, okay, what kind of clothes are we going to be wearing? What are we wearing for the first day of school? The big thing, and this is funny, how are you going to wear your hair? Because, I mean, even something like that when she's in middle school. But I find was going to go back to kind of getting her acclimated back to getting into the structure of school. One of the things that we do just in the last part of July, maybe sometime, maybe in the first week of August, is we do some kind of weekend trip, or we may do a day in Fredericksburg or something like that, just to kind of mark the end of summer. And this is our last big hurrah, right before school starts. And then we get back into, okay, this is kind of what bedtime is going to be.
I love that about your family, that ritual of celebrating and honoring milestones and things like that. That's definitely a superhero strength of yours.
Well, thank you.
And I know every year it seems like I'll get phone calls at the beginning of the school year as a school counselor. And parents will have concern about their child crying, or they don't want to go to school. It's usually that second week when it's really set in. And it seems like so often I go back to just what you were saying, that giving kids choice and giving them structure. And those two things, when they work in harmony, can really help to dissipate a lot of that anxiety that creeps up whenever there's transition, whenever there's change, whether it's the first day of school, you're moving a house, or your dog dies. Any kind of change or transition is going to really just kind of bring up that anxiety. And I think sometimes by giving kids choice, it gives them control over the situation, even though they don't have control that school starting,
it's
and
the
it
control we
starts
allow-
at 7:45 or whatever.
It's the control we allow them to have.
Exactly.
So on the
Yeah.
control over, do you want to, brush your teeth first, or do you want to read the bedtime story first? Or those are little ways that you can give them control over that routine and
those
that
little
schedule.
ones,
For the little
yeah.
ones. And even the older ones, it's kind of, you're giving little like choices with what outfits she wears and what
Yes.
hairstyles, but within the boundaries of what's acceptable for you.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
Yeah.
the organization too. Like, you're going to be organized, and we're going to also walk through it.
And Clyde is very involved in that too. I mean, he gets in and helps her figure out, he was the one that went and got her notebook last year for her to be able to keep her studies organized. So we start off with not only our back to school trip or day at Fredericksburg or whatever, but we also sit down and we start talking about our expectations for the school year. Because although she's on her same campus, her campus goes from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And although they're still on the same campus, it's still very interesting that she still needs to go and meet the teacher, and still, because she doesn't know what to expect for each grade level. Things change from year to year, whether you're on the same campus or not. And so we do things like go and we visit, and get to know the teachers and the classrooms. And we sit down, actually already they've sent an email and they asked us, what kind of electives. So we even talk about that, just in getting her prepared mentally that these are the things that are coming up. These are our expectations. Organization's important.
I love that. Expectations, just in general, I think, is a really good tool for any age. I mean, imagine starting a job and you didn't really know what it was or what time they expected you to be there. You'd be real anxious about performing well or doing the right thing. So I agree. I think giving kids expectations of what to expect, if that's known, but then also those expectations that you have as a parent with behavior or organization or the schoolwork or the time that you'll be coming home. I think that really sets a good tone when you set it at the beginning of the school year. It's a whole lot easier at the beginning than right in the middle when they haven't met expectations that weren't adequately clarified or set. And then that's when it seems like more anxiety and battles and all of that happens.
I love how you brought up the going to the school thing. I think that's so important for kids. Doesn't matter what year you're in. It's always great to get in there to meet your teachers. A lot of schools, especially at the elementary level, will host, back to school nights or meet the teacher nights or things like that. And especially for those friends, it's the first time they're in school. So you're kindergartners or you're new to the district or new to the, school that you're going to be going and getting a tour before school starts. And that can also alleviate some of that anxiety or stress of what's going to happen or what's going to be next. And it's a great starting point to then, okay, well, this is where we're going to be and what kind of supplies do you think we're going to need and what do you think we need to do? I think it's important that you involve your child in that. I think a lot of times we as adults do it for them.
Just go, yes.
And we say,
It's
you
easier.
need this, you need that. Yeah, even at the little bitty age, that's important for them to be able to be a part of that and setting that structure and setting, these are my supplies, this is what I need, and this is what's going to happen when I go in the classroom, and all of those things, and just help them to have a more successful time at the beginning of the school year.
Something else also that is so true. The other thing that I like to do with Lil, now that she's older, is we start talking about natural consequences. And so even kind of as we're gearing up to transition back into the school year, even talking about the consequences, the natural consequences if you stay up too late. What happens? How do you feel in the morning? What's the natural consequence of having to get up early and go to school for several hours and not start your day off with breakfast? So I think that really gets her in the right frame of mind when we're starting to talk about starting back to school. And we're actually starting to let her experience some of those natural consequences of when you're not organized or you're not taking care of the business at hand that you need to take care of. We have a little whiteboard where we have our expectations. We don't tell her when to do it, but we just have the list of chores that she needs to get accomplished. And so I think that helps the parent even during the summer. If you have those list of chores on the whiteboard, it still helps them stay organized, still gives them the freedom of deciding when they want to do things and not, but they know they have to get those list of things done. And I think that's something that is good to have parents do, even to help, even if you don't sit down and make them do, math worksheets or, writing in the summer, there are other ways you can still get them to stay kind of learning with what the importance of organization is.
And there's so many skills
Absolutely.
besides reading, math, writing, and social studies. Like the skill that you're teaching your daughter, which is a lifelong skill, is how to be autonomous, how to be in control of myself, how to do things to get them done, not because I'm going to be rewarded or because something good's going to happen, but because this is my responsibility. And that's a huge, huge, huge gift that you're giving her. And it can start young, but as they get older, you pull away, and it becomes more of a responsibility. And that's
teaching her to manage her own time.
Yes.
And these are the consequences, because also on the whiteboard, when you don't complete all of your tasks, the consequence would be maybe we take time away from TV time or iPad time. So, because there are natural consequences. Like if we don't go to work, what are the natural consequences for that?
Yeah, you don't get paid.
What's nice about that is so often we get in those power struggles with our kids. And when it's the parent or whoever's in charge that's saying, well, you need to pick up your room, you need to make your bed, or whatever it is the expectation is, then it becomes a you against me situation. When it's an expectation that was predetermined, and I involve my kids actually in setting our expectations as a family, and they're pretty young. I have a 3 and a 6-year-old, so the 6-year-old obviously takes part a lot more in it, but we all generally want the same thing, which is a kind and peaceful home that has some kind of order, but a lot of fun and freedom. And so we're all on the same page when we set those expectations. Then when they're enforced through natural consequences, it's not a me against you. It's, hey, we're on the same team. Remember, this is what we're working towards, and we agree to these expectations.
That's right.
And like you said, in the school setting, they're going to have so many expectations. School-wide expectations, classroom expectations. And so to keep the bar raised at home during the summer is really a gift, I see, for these kids that they are used to. I'm accountable to myself. I'm responsible for these things, and that can really help with the transition to school as well, I think.
And then what happens to the family when you don't get your tasks done? Because we are a unit, we're a team, and so as a team we each have our parts, and so when you don't do your part, or I don't do my part, or Dad doesn't do his part, how does that affect the team as a whole?
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. I think that also gets them to look outside of just themselves, but understanding how those natural consequences kind of affects everybody.
Affect everyone. Yes, absolutely.
And so that's so important.
One thing I do with my daughter, especially who's in elementary school, but even with other students, is a lot of role play, talking through scenarios, especially with little ones, but really with older ones too. A lot of situations run through these kids' minds about perhaps bullying or opening up my locker for the first time, or will I be able to make friends at recess? And so a lot of advice I give to parents in working with kids is we'll talk through those situations and give them the words ahead of time so that they're not struggling for how to respond or how to ask someone to play. With the kids that we transition to middle school, we actually give them locks so that they can practice how,
Do they use them? Do they use them at school?
Well, you can buy locks at, so many different stores. And as it's kind of like riding a bike. Once you learn how to open one, you can open any combination lock. It's just the combination might change. So it depends on your middle or high school. Often they'll require a combination lock that you purchase for PE, but there's a separate lock on their schoolwork locker. So that would be a question for that campus. But the kids will just practice, and that just gives them another confidence because they've role played that scenario or that situation, or maybe even just giving them those words to.
Yeah. That's a good strategy to use anytime.
Yeah.
If your child's coming home and talking about a situation they're concerned about, or they're worried about, or something like that, just sit down and practice with them. I love it when parents let the kids lead in those types of situations. I think that's so important. I think we as adults want to fix and solve. And so it's kind of like, well, here's what you say, or here's what you do.
Yeah.
I think it's so important when we can take that back seat and be like, well, what do you think you could say, or what do you think you could do? Especially when it comes to like the friendship issues
I love
and
that.
those types of things. But that's a good skill to have in place for as your school year gets going and problems start to creep up and
I'm
stuff.
glad you said, because I'm such a fixer. I want to jump in.
Yeah.
But gotta know, nobody really likes being told what to do. So even stepping back keeps the door open too.
Well, we all have different personalities. I remember when I first started working with kids, and I taught kindergarten, and somebody would be mean to somebody, and that kid would still go play with them. And I was like, "Why are you playing with that kid? They're mean to you." And for that child, it was more important that child liked them. And so they kept trying, and they kept trying, and they kept trying. Well, for me to go to that child and say, well, just don't be their friend, wasn't helpful at all, because I was going against what their instinct was. But letting them kind of strategize and try to figure out and learn on their own, maybe this is somebody that, I'm going to be able to have a relationship with by leaving them alone. You know what I mean? Helps them to I don't know, they learn that lesson a little bit better, I think.
Absolutely. We all have the answers within, and so it's better.
Well, and what works for us is, but we all don't march to the same beat.
Yeah.
I think also it's so important to establish spending time with your children, because I think that those natural conversations occur when you spend that time with your child. So that's why, maybe if parents can take their kids in school in the morning, you can leave them with words to really help them start their day off. Or if you're picking them up, engaging them in conversation, just don't have the radio on.
Yeah.
Although music is nice, but first when they get in the car, to have the conversation, how was your day? What's been going on? Who did you play with? Probably more appropriate for elementary school than middle school, because we don't have recess anymore. But the time also at dinner time, or if it's snack time, that they are sitting down and having a snack before schoolwork, having a conversation with them then. Or if you can't do that when you have dinner, making sure that all the distractions are off. No TVs on. Please put the cell phones away, the iPads, all those distractors, and sitting down and eating with your child. We find that having Lillian in the kitchen with us and doing things like setting the table, and Clyde maybe, getting the glasses out so that we can get the drinks that we want to have. And then I'm maybe finishing up the task of cooking, and we're plating our food together, and we're praying together, and we're eating, and we're having conversation. And Lillian is so cute now that she will ask me, Mom, how was your day? Because a lot of times we used to just focus on her. And so it's so cute to see her personality come through, and she's just kind of modeling what she's seeing. As Clyde asks me how my day was, she'll jump to and say, Mom, how was your day? Or Dad, how was your day? Or what did you do? And one of the things that I love that Clyde sends Lillian off with every day is, don't forget to be joyful and content. So they have their morning ritual, and that's the thing he says to her. And sometimes she'll turn around and on him, and she'll say, and Dad, don't forget to be joyful and content today. And it's just cute to see that. But that's spending that time with your children. It's so important. And again, that is what really helps to have those kind of conversations, that they bring it up.
And then for the long haul.
Yes.
When it's a part of who you are as a family.
And then they can trust that you're going to be there, you're going to spend time, that you're not always on that computer. Because I think sometimes we're so busy that we forget that our children really need to be heard. And the only way that they're going to open up about things that are bothering them is the amount of time, or how they feel about how available you are to them.
Yeah.
So not just I do very good at listening to kind of what I call the surface talk. So we'll do, how was your day? Everything was good. And then as I continue to talk to her, we get into, well, this happened at school today. If I hadn't taken the time just to continue that's almost like getting her warmed up for deeper conversation. Once I get her warmed up for deeper conversation, I find that she talks to me a lot more and tells me about things that's happened throughout her day.
I like that too. And that I think sometimes as parents we question, and letting them have time to warm up and figure out. I think sometimes parents feel like, you're not telling me, and I need to know, and I know, and I think a lot of times it's a kid doesn't know. This happened, I'm still unsure how I feel about it. I'm still unsure if, if I'm upset or if I'm not upset, or what I'm going to, how I'm going to handle it. And just giving them that time to kind of come to a decision about how they themselves feel is so important. So I love that warm up conversation. That's a great.
And how they want to tell you, you know, because they may not they may be kind of piecing it together to even think about how they want to tell you.
Sure.
And so I think that, like you said, that warm up is very important, you know, and if we get caught up into, oh, your day was good? Okay. And then you blast up the radio, then you're missing out on something potentially.
I agree.
Or if the opposite, it's, oh, really? Okay, well, tell me exactly how your day, you know, like, because I think sometimes we do that too, especially if you notice that maybe their facial expression isn't telling you good, you know, and so then you start that, well, tell me what it was. And then,
interrogation.
it starts trying to figure it out.
An excellent tool for that actually comes from Franklin Covey. There's a training called the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He wrote a book in the 90s, and we actually have a talking stick at our table. We view the mealtime as a sacred time. And each of us pass around the talking stick. We pray in age order from oldest to youngest, and we pass the talking stick from youngest to oldest. But it just gives kids that freedom where it's very open-ended, and whoever has that sacred talking stick has the freedom to talk about whatever is on their mind, no judgment. But it is wonderful just to keep those conversations open so that you can listen for anxiety that might be creeping up. As we get closer to the school year starting, you can have conversations started where it's more natural before the school year really just is right upon us. So I absolutely agree with that.
So let's kind of talk about some things that we want our viewers to take away in terms of highlights from our conversation about back to school.
Yes. I absolutely think, you know, first and foremost, you've got to get your body ready. And so you've got to adjust your own schedule, sleeping, eating, all of those things to a more structured routine, and creating more of that structure into your day-to-day life, because we lose it all in the summer. At least I lose quite a bit. So I think that can be very powerful in those first steps to preparing yourself for the structure and routine of school.
I think that along with that, just transition and helping your child to become comfortable with what's about to happen, what's going to go on, role-playing those situations, going to your school, checking it out, having them be involved in getting school supplies ready, and those types of things I think can help alleviate some of the stress and anxiety that happens when you go back to school. So I would just involve them, get them involved and active in that organization piece.
And I like the idea of, again, having the last hurrah and getting kids in the frame of mind that we're going to do this last celebration of the wonderfulness of summer, and we're going to celebrate the wonderfulness of starting the new year. And so I would start off with that. I would also talk about the importance of sitting down and eating as a family, making sure that we set the time apart again and set the expectation that we're not going to have the distractions at the dinner table. We're going to sit here and we're going to have a good conversation, and it's going to involve everybody. Nobody gets to sit and just stay quiet the whole time.
Yeah.
And so those are the things.
I think there's some great resources out there to help families get ready for the school year and going back. Like I said earlier, I taught kindergarten, so one of my favorite books is The Kissing Hand. And it's a great book to use with your younger friends. It could even become something that you use throughout the year. And I love when parents pair it with something that helps with that separation anxiety for our kindergartners or first time away from mom students, some of our pre-K students as well. One of my favorite activities real quick was I had a parent make bracelets. And so the little child made a bracelet and the mom made a bracelet, and then they traded. And all day long, when you looked at your bracelet, you knew mom loves you and is thinking about you. And it also helped with the mom, because I think sometimes parents have a little bit of that separation. You have your kids with you all the time all summer, and then you're giving them to somebody else. That can be a hard thing to do. So what are some of your favorite
idea? Well, I'm a big fan of the Love and Logic Institute. Charles Fay and Jim Fay are authors of several books, several audio cassettes, but probably just a great handbook for parents is called Parenting with Love and Logic by Jim Fay and Charles Fay. And it really just outlines some specific strategies for setting boundaries, using those natural consequences that we talked about today, and setting structure where you're avoiding a lot of the power struggles that sometimes we get with kids, and also easing their anxieties. And so I would really highly recommend that as a great resource for parents.
The book that I like, especially for middle school, is called Help, My Child is Starting Middle School. And it's by Jerry L. Parks. And it's basically it's basically a book that's really great, because we have, The parents are addressed in the book as well as the children. It gives parents tips for how to navigate middle school, but it also gives really great tips for how children can navigate middle school. For example, it talks about parents kind of backing off and letting the children fly, but still staying very involved in the schoolwork and structure and those kind of things for middle school. And then it talks to children about things like watching who your friends are and how to organize your assignments and those kind of things. So that's my favorite book.
Great. Oh, great books.
It's like a good one.
We have lots of resources on our Counselor Dynamite page for you to check out. Some of the resources are local to this area, so to the Austin area. So if you're not from Austin and you're looking for some different resources, check with your local newspaper, check with your Chamber of Commerce. Those are some great places to start to get some ideas if you need some help or some different information. And don't forget, CounselorDynamite.com has all of our resources on there.
And I guess kind of on that same note, we would love to get any input or feedback. So if you have questions, comments, constructive feedback, please contact us. You may contact us through our website, www.counselordynamite.com, and we will get back to you as timely as possible.
And again, we are so happy that you joined us for our first show today. We hope that you will be back and see us again as we're going to be focusing on parenting styles and boundaries. Don't forget, you can check us out and subscribe for free for all the shows at www.counselordynamite.com. You can also follow and like us on Facebook and Twitter. And until our paths cross again, we wish you great health, happiness, peace, and joy.
The content of the Counselor Dynamite View, owned and operated by Life Mentors Counseling, PLLC, is intended for general information purposes only. The information, views, and opinions expressed in this online talk show are not specific medical, financial, legal, or counseling advice. The content of this video is not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent a situation or condition. Individuals with mental health concerns should consult their doctor and/or mental health care provider for professional medical advice, medications, or treatments. If you have a mental health problem, we encourage you to speak to your doctor or mental health professional immediately about your condition. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to the Counselor Dynamite View, the show hosts, or Life Mentors Counseling, PLLC, whose words and/or opinions appear from or on this show.